What else is out?
Okay, so Still Alice. We had Julianne Moore on the programme a few weeks ago. It was one of those strange cases in which, when we were interviewing her, the Oscars hadn't happened yet. But we were pretty certain that she was going to win because she went into the Oscars as absolute favourite, and of course she did, which is terrific. There was a strange sort of logjam of Julianne Moore movies, which was that when she was in Maps to the Stars, which I really loved, played in Cannes in May 2014, and she won a Best Actress award there. Tim Spall won Best Actor award, and they were both then, front of the Oscar pack. Tim Spall then managed not to get nominated for the Oscar or BAFTAs, which completely baffles me. Julianne Moore then found out that Maps to the Stars wasn't going to be released this year in America. It was going to be released next year. So everyone said, oh, it's terrible. She's been robbed. By the time that, 2016 comes around, everyone will have forgotten about it. Then Toronto happens. Out comes Still Alice. And everyone says, actually, Julianne Moore is back at the front of the pack because of this extraordinary performance in Still Alice, which is much more an awards-friendly movie anyway. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to imagine them giving the award to her for playing Havana Secret, who's such a sort of hateful character. Then, of course, Maps to the Stars did get a short LA screening to make it eligible for the Golden Globes, so that in the Globes she was nominated for both films, but not in the Oscars because they didn't want to go head to head.
I'm very confused now.
Yeah, exactly. It's the short version of it is I would have loved Julianne Moore to have won the Oscar for Maps of the Stars, but that wasn't going to happen. I'm thrilled that she won the award for Still Alice because she is terrific in it. So the film is based on the book by Lisa Genova, who's a neuroscientist and writer, and it's directed by Richard Glasser and Westmoreland, who made Quinceañera. Do you remember us reviewing that? Which I loved. I thought it was really...
Whenever you say, do you remember, do you know, that kind of thing, the answer is always no.
Okay, well, it was a really lovely film, really, really lovely, interesting film. I don't think ever sort of quite got the recognition that it deserved. Anyway, so the story is she's 50-year-old Alice. She's a linguistics professor. She has a very happy life. She's living with Alec Baldwin, and who's her husband, and they're sort of very supportive, and they have a loving family. And then she starts to forget, firstly, key words. I think lexicon, is one of the words that she very significantly forgets early on. She starts seeing a neurologist, and she is diagnosed as having early-onset Alzheimer's. And the rest of the film is then about the way in which she reacts to it and the way in which her family reacts to it. Her family played, as I said, by... on one hand, Alec Baldwin playing the spouse of an Oscar winner for the second year running, because, of course, he played Kate Blanchett's husband in Blue Jasmine. And also dealing with her relationship with Kristen Stewart, who is her younger daughter, who is at the beginning sort of very rebellious, wants to be off, not doing college, but doing a theatre group, which Julianne Moore doesn't particularly think is a great idea. But during the course of the drama, they form some kind of bond which is much more intimate than that which they had before. Here is a clip.
I like that necklace.
You do?
Yeah.
You haven't seen this before?
No.
My mother gave it to me. When I was a little girl, like in second grade, my teacher told me that butterflies don't live very long time, that they live like a month or something. And I was so upset, and I went home and I told my mother, and she said, yeah, but they have a nice life. They have a really beautiful life, so. It always makes me think about my mother's life and my sister's life, and to a certain extent, my own.
You are going to be around for a long time,
Yes, yes. There's some things I'm going to do. I want to take a sabbatical year with Daddy, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I want to see Anna have a baby, and I want to see Tom graduate.
You will.
And I'd like to see you go to college.
And then she starts to use what she knows is her daughter's knowledge of her condition, just kind of emotionally blackmail her into going to college. And mum says, you can't do that. And she says, why not? I'm your mum. And it's one of the moments in the movie that really rings true. I mean, what the film does is it's dealing with a condition with which I think many people will be familiar. Certainly, the amount of people caring for people with Alzheimer's seems to be expanding exponentially. And unlike films like Iris and Away From Her, its key focus is Alice's own experience. So, for example, the cinematographer, who's a very good DP, uses this kind of shallow depth of field in order to give us that sense of Alice's inner isolation, to let us sort of inside her mind. And we very much see the world through her eyes. Obviously, we see the way in which it affects her family. We see the way in which it affects her relatives. But the key way into the story is her. And there are many things that it gets absolutely right about the symptoms and manifestations of Alzheimer's, the way in which the initial memory losses seem fairly random, the anxiety which those memory losses provoke, that sense of precipitous foreboding which happens at the point of diagnosis. And it's a film which is unflinching about the way in which Alzheimer's is degenerative. But it also gets right the sort of underlying sense of normality, because one of the metaphors which the film is not shy about using is that of waves on a beach. I mean, one of my favourite scenes is a scene in which we see Alice and John together looking out at the ocean, and they start talking about, their old life, and it's this very sort of intimate and rather lovely reverie about the people that they were and the way their lifestyles changed them, and they had kids and jobs and all that sort of stuff. And the film is sort of using this metaphor of waves on a beach, that the condition itself comes and goes. And at one point, I mean, a clip which has been used very much, but it's obviously because it's talismanic, is that Alice is actually asked by Kristen Stewart's character. Incidentally, Kristen Stewart, I think, is terrific. Isn't she great?
Yes.
And there's been a lot of sniffiness about Kristen Stewart ever since since she was in the Twilight movies, and people have been kind of I thought she was really good and really natural. I think it's the best performance, although it's a supporting role. I think it's the best I've seen her on screen. That she was really terrific. And there's the moment when she says, "What's it like? Just what does it actually feel like?" And Alice's character starts to say, well, sometimes I can almost pass for normal, and other times I feel like I just can't find myself. And then there is a sort of melodrama narrative. There was a discussion there about butterflies, and the butterfly becomes a symbol of something which starts to unravel during the narrative. And there's Alice's use of technology in order to keep her track of herself. She plays a word search game on her mobile. She films messages to herself on a computer, which actually bizarrely echo the messages from Before I Go to Sleep, that Nicole Kidman finds when she videotapes herself. So it's sort of referring to those, and I suppose through association you'd see it back to movies like Memento, or films which are about memory loss. There are problems. I mean, one of the problems is that in prioritizing early onset, what Julianne Moore said, and actually she's quite right, is that they wanted to do that because it reminds you that Alzheimer's is not just a condition of old age, it is a disease, and it's a disease that we all hope will be cured. There is the risk of special pleading, of saying that somehow this case is more tragic because she's young, she's attractive, she has this high functioning lifestyle, she's a linguistics professor. And the film would, I think, run the risk of perhaps saying, well, this is therefore more tragic than other cases. However, I think that what happens is that Julianne Moore manages to universalise it. And I think that is down to an immense subtlety of performance and the way in which she does give you the sense that you are able to get inside the character, able to get inside the character's state of mind, able to understand, and to that phrase that I always hate using, but Hollywood is so beloved of, go with them on a journey. This is one of the few films in which that does feel appropriate. Occasionally it's somewhat televisual. Occasionally occasionally you get the sense that it's too removed from a TV movie of the week that's kind of lurking in the background, and if they're not careful, the spectre of that will start again. But it's utterly ridiculous. Firstly, you can feel the love and affection that it's made with. I mean, Richard Glatzer has been dealing with motor neuron disease, ALS as they call it in America. And Julianne Moore said what's interesting is that he was using technology, he was using the iPad to communicate in a way which is kind of similar to what's happening with Julianne Moore's relationship with technology. And the film does have an interesting take on how technology can affect, how the fact that we all have computers in our pockets nowadays has started to to affect and change the way in which we experience these things. I thought it was very moving, and the scene that I liked, was impressed by the most, is the scene in which John and Alice first tell their family what's going on, and you see everyone in the room reacting in ways that you understand, ways that you recognise. You go, yeah, I can see that, and to some extent, I suppose those. They're talismanic, they're paradigmatic, they are indicating a type of response, but they're doing it in a way that absolutely works. So I think it's a very good film made with love and attention and care and sensitivity, which is important, and raised shoulder high by Julianne Moore's performance.